On this edition of Native Report, we meet artist Dyani White Hawk Polk and learn about the traditional Lakota and modern influences in her art. We visit the Eastern Band of Cherokee to see how their fisheries resources managed. And we attend the American Indian Studies Summer Institute of the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. Stay tuned for all of this and a word from our elders today on Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. The paintings and artwork of Dyani White Hawk Polk reflect her Lakota and European ancestry through the fusion of traditional symbolism and motifs with Western abstract imagery. Her work investigates the dilemmas and challenges, as well as the joys and blessings of a cross-cultural existence.
On a typical weekday, you most likely will find artist Dyani White Hawk Polk at her job as director for All My Relations Gallery in Minneapolis. But on this day, she is taking the time to complete an art project.
Aside from paintings, I also like to do a lot of earrings. I really believe that everybody has been given their gifts, that they're born with whatever it is that they're supposed to do. And I think that that's been a part of who I am since birth. My mom was consistently telling me throughout my life, Dyani, you're an artist. You're an artist. One of these years, you're going to believe me, and you're going to know, that's who you are. Some of the primary things that I draw from in my work has changed. Earlier when I was younger, I was still, I think, really drawing from a lot of popular culture influences, snowboarding and skateboarding, hip-hop culture. That was all something that I was really involved with when I was younger, and so like graffiti art was a big influence when I was younger. People like Jean-Michel Basquiat were huge influential people in my earlier painting pursuits.
Later influences were Western abstract artists such as Mark Rothko and art movements such as modernism.
I started figuring out that some of my favorite artists were getting a great deal of influence, of inspiration for their works from Indigenous arts. Almost everybody that I fell in love with, Marsden Hartley's another one, they were people that once I started reading about them, there was always this mention of that they spent some time in around Native communities or Native arts, and were drawing influence from them. And I kept figuring out, like, oh, okay, well, that's why I keep falling in love with their work, because their work was representative of them reflecting upon those experiences and so it was familiar to me. And then I also draw a great deal of influence from historical works from our ancestors, of Lakota beadwork and quill work, and other tribal art forms too from other tribes, but I generally try and keep it specific to my tribe. I also, though, have been recently looking at Navajo weaving and its similarities to abstract painting and stripe painting in those eras. And so with my work, I'm really looking for those intersections, because there has been a great deal of influence, cross-influence in each direction. My current works really look to combine those influences, one, because they represent kind of my two passions, my two real loves and affinities to modern abstract painting, and then to Lakota traditional works. The title of this piece is From These Things I Am Born, and it's a continuation of the works that have been more focused on the moccasin motif. And it's the first one that's incorporated ledger paper on a really large scale, because they've previously have all been really intimate, small pieces. Ledger paper to me represents a really sad time in our history too. You know, I mean, that the birth of ledger art came out of prisoners of war. And so I've used it here to create the designs that are in this really abstracted moccasin shape. And the design itself isn't, you know, the design is a crafting of my own, but it's derivative of influences that I see in historic works. For me, I've created something that represents balance. And balance comes through opposites. In order to achieve balance, you have to, I think, embrace the contradictions and embrace the opposites. And so for me, that's been something that I've talked about in a lot of my work, because it's also been, it's a part of my internal conversation too, how I've come to accepting self and my varied life experiences, and even my, you know, genetic makeup of being somebody who's mixed, you know, and is really embracing our dualities and how those dualities make up who we are.
Dyani has won awards for her art, and her work has been used for book covers.
Well, anytime an opportunity like that is presented, it's kind of scary and humbling, and at the same time, it's you know, it's really exciting because it gives you little moments of encouragement and that support to tell you, hey, you're going in the right direction, you know, like things are working, you should keep going, you should keep doing what you're doing, because it's the world is recognizing that, you know, and so it gives you the encouragement that you need to kind of push forward. There are so many practicing Native artists, and we come from an extremely creative people, you know, an extremely artistically prolific people, and we have a great deal to contribute. Not only do we have a great deal to contribute, but we're the indigenous people of this land base, which means that our story is extremely important to the people that I feel walk on and share this land base with us now. I know that my artwork is what I'm supposed to be doing, and eventually I'd like to be able to only be doing my artwork.
Did you know that All My Relations Art was founded in 1999, and it specializes in exhibiting contemporary American Indian fine arts? The name of the gallery is from a Dakota phrase meaning all my relatives. It was originally a project of the Native American Community Development Institute, and it went through a series of locations over the years. The new All My Relations Gallery opened in January of 2011 in the heart of the American Indian Cultural Corridor along Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, with the debut of the never-before-seen paintings by the master artist Frank Big Bear. Since its founding, All My Relations Arts has held more than 25 exhibits. According to its mission statement, All My Relations Arts honors and strengthens relationships between contemporary American Indian artists and the living influence of preceding generations, between artists and audiences of all ethnic backgrounds, and between art and the vitality of the American Indian Cultural Corridor. And its vision statement seeks a community in which both American Indian and non-Indian audiences have broad access to quality American Indian art that presents the contemporary American Indian experience in all its diversity.
In 1984, the Eastern Band of Cherokee in North Carolina constructed its surface water fish hatchery. The local economy is tourism-based, and the fishery serves a dual purpose: one, to enhance the fishery for the benefit of the members of the band, and two, to capitalize on the tourism opportunity. With the Great Smoky Mountains as a backdrop, workers with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Nation Fisheries and Wildlife Program inspect one of the many holding tanks called raceways.
The fishery here in Cherokee, on the Cherokee Indian Reservation, is about 60 years old commercially. The hatchery was built a long time ago with the intent of just supporting a stock fishery on the tribal boundary for both enrolled members and tourists alike. In 2007, you're looking at about 30,000 pounds behind us in these raceways, and now we're at about 80,000 pounds in these raceways, just in a matter of a few years. About 75,000 individual fishermen a year visit Cherokee. The fishery was started as a culmination of, I think, a lot of efforts. Number one, to support the tribal people, to support the the availability of fish in these pristine waters that we have here, but also to stimulate and further enhance our tourism efforts. We're adjacent, about 40 yards from you right now, is the most visited national park in the United States of America. So, we have a lot of visitors here. Cherokee is a tourism-based community. It has been for a long time. And so, it was a culmination of efforts of how can we enhance the fishery for the benefit of our enrolled members and the enjoyment of our enrolled members, but at the same time really capitalize on a tourism opportunity. And so that's what we did. Tribal lands are around 56,000 acres plus or minus, so it's not a huge reservation. And the great thing is, though, we have over 60 miles of trout streams on boundary. Of those 60 miles, just over 30 miles are open to the public. So you can come to our reservation, you can buy a permit, and you can fish.
So tell me about these raceways.
Yeah, so I think we have approximately 26 individual raceways, and there is some method to the madness. We don't just dump fish in them. Each raceway, each system of raceway houses a select group of fish that range from very small juveniles all the way to a trophy size and brood fish. So that they come from the nursery areas, we call it, and they move out into here in stages and basically age groups and size classifications. And as they grow, they fill up, and as it starts getting crowded, we basically come in and we grade them out so that we make sure that each individual raceway houses fish that are very close and similar in size.
Before the fish are big enough to move to these outdoor raceways, they start in the nursery.
What happens is this little apparatus here is where the eggs go. When we get eggs in, we put the eggs in here, and it's a combination of water and air to keep the eggs circulating. And then this overflow is actually so as the babies start hatching, some of them will flow over out of the spout into this raceway. And then when all the eggs start hatching, or a large portion of them, a certain portion, then we actually take and we siphon all those babies out into this raceway. These fish now are probably about 3 months old. So you can see this is generally what a 2-3 month old fish looks like. They'll stay in here until their size and their growth basically just crowds them to the point where their health could be degraded. These fish will be in here probably another 3 or 4 weeks, and then we will split this raceway to another raceway inside the building, and then they'll stay for another couple months. And when they're large enough and outgrowing this and we have to make room, we'll move them outside. The good thing is the same water is in here as the same water is outside. If we do it properly, there's no major shock in that transition. To some people, it may not seem that important. A fish is a fish is a fish, but for us, we've learned that if people can't catch a good-sized fish that's healthy, pretty, and that fights hard, and that they won't come back.
Outside once again, we take a look at one of the many different species of trout, which surprisingly is not historically important to the Cherokee.
We have an assortment of fish. We have mostly rainbow trout, brown trout, brook trout, even a few southern Appalachian brook trout, which is the only native species of trout to this entire region, and probably the most for sure culturally significant trout species you'll find. We don't have any in this hatchery, but we also help rear multiple other species, such as the sickle-fin red horse, with some partner hatcheries, governmental hatcheries. And the bottom-feeding fish, the sucker species, historically were the most culturally significant species. Trout were really not historically a huge part of the Cherokee culture. All right, this is a rainbow trout. And they're very, very, see there, I told you. Go ahead, see if you can pick him up.
Oh, he's squirming.
See, you can't do it. These are slick Cherokee fish. They don't want to be caught. A huge part of the health of a trout is that slimy, mucousy membrane. And without that slime, they can't protect themselves against disease and parasites and things like that. So anyway, there, he's in. We're good to go. I wanted you to feel that fish just to show you that you may not be expert on trout, because I'm not, but you know, that good slimy membrane, that real strong fish that's hard to hold, that's the kind of fish you want to put in the river, because he pulls hard on a fisherman's line and he stays healthy and he grows fast. And so that's, you know, a lot of years in the work to produce such good healthy fish. So visitation and the popularity of Cherokee as a fishery has grown so much that we're now stocking probably 100 times the fish that we were stocking in the 80s. And so when we're up near 500,000 pounds a year, which is a lot of fish. You know, somewhere around the neighborhood of probably 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 fish per year going into our waters. So we kind of claim that, you know, we're probably the largest singly managed contiguous hatchery supported fishery, maybe even in the United States of America. And we're just real proud it's in Indian country.
The Hegman Lake rock paintings are a great moose. There's a great figure with outstretched arms, and that's the winter maker. And there's a panther, or I should say puma, that's depicted there as well. And then there's other markings and other parts of this big cliff that the rock paintings are on. Well, the big figure with the outstretched arms, I realized that was the winter maker. And that looking up at the constellation of Orion, those great big long outstretched arms, connect to two bright stars, Procyon and Aldebaran. And there it is. Most people, when they reproduce the rock paintings, think of them as silhouettes or a solid color. But there's actually heart areas that are rubbed away, showing where the heart is of the moose, of the puma, and of the winter maker. And they match with stars in the constellation. There's a little star that marks that heart. Did the idea of this great cosmic moose come first with the big heart indicated on it? Or was it the constellation that came first? And then they created the moose from the constellation.
In the state of Wisconsin, Act 31 refers to the requirement that all Wisconsin public schools provide instruction in the history, culture, and sovereignty of the 11 federally recognized Native nations located within the state. The Department of Public Instruction holds an annual Summer Institute for educators, administrators, and other professionals, the most recent hosted by the Stockbridge-Muncie Band of Mohican Indians.
The Many Trails Banquet Hall in Gresham, Wisconsin, is where participants met for the week-long American Indian Studies Summer Institute. The Institute provides information about the state's 11 tribes and bands.
It's an opportunity for educators throughout the state of Wisconsin to come to the Institute to learn about Wisconsin American Indian history, culture, and tribal sovereignty of the 11 federally recognized tribes here in the state of Wisconsin. It held at various different locations throughout the state, held at Menominee, Oneida, and then this year with being at the Stockbridge-Muncie community. In terms of building around one of our themes, in terms of having some of the participants learn about the communities, we like to have them have an opportunity to be engaged with one of the communities specifically here in the state. And with that being said, we try to rotate it throughout different communities here in the state, so each participants have an opportunity to see what they're learning and have an opportunity for hands-on opportunities. So all the participants of this week's institute come from a variety of different backgrounds. Some are in-service teachers, pre-service teachers, classroom teachers, Title VII coordinators, Johnson O'Malley coordinators, professors, college students, staff, faculty, a wide variety of different folks from a variety of different educational backgrounds, but more often not working professionals of different sorts.
The Institute is a direct result of Act 31 of the 1989-1991 Wisconsin Biennial Budget Bill. The act arose from the backlash against tribes exercising their sovereign treaty rights.
I was at the Department of Public Instruction in Madison. I worked there from 1984 to 1991. And during my time there is when the legislation was enacted that created the requirement that all public schools and teacher training institutions in the state of Wisconsin had to teach about the history, culture, and tribal sovereignty of the federally recognized tribes and bands here in the state of Wisconsin. And Act 31 actually is the title of the budget bill. That's what we're operating off today. But I think the Institute and the people that have come to the Institute, I think it has helped tremendously to raise that awareness amongst our educators that they're required to do this. And it pleases me every time I've been involved and I see the number of participants and just the thought of knowing that they're going back to their home school districts and they're going to be advocates for us and go back and let the people in their school systems know that they're required to do this and they need to do this, and them having participated in the Institute have gained some knowledge and understanding about this whole thing.
We have two Native American tribes in the Crandon School District, the Forest County Potawatomi and the Mole Lake Skakagan Chippewa. And I feel that as a district we need to understand the Native American culture if we're going to address and help educate the students. I taught on the Native American reservation of the Menominee Indian for 12 years before coming to Crandon. I've been at Crandon for 16 years, and it's amazing how much you really don't know until you have a meeting, a conference like this where you can talk to other tribes and get an understanding, a feel of what culture and history means to the people. We need to know the history of the Native American people in Wisconsin and across the United States. And that is the only thing that is forcing, and I guess you can say force, the school districts to address that. And if that act wasn't there, I'm sure a lot of the districts would not even consider doing it.
I've wanted to attend this institute for quite some time because I've taught at the university level in regards to Act 31. That's part of human relations courses, which is a requirement for all Wisconsin certified licensed teachers. So, but I also knew that as I continued to educate myself in order to deliver and help my students, my pre-service students, to really understand Act 31, I still felt there was a gap in my knowledge of truly understanding the plight of American Indians. I think we all need to understand other people's stories. We need to understand who they are. We need to understand their traditions. We need to understand the customs, and we need to understand what their belief systems are. I may not agree, but I think you need to it helps you to round out your own perspective.
For the afternoon session, summit participants toured the community of the Stockbridge-Munsee Nation, helping them gain a deeper understanding of the government and the people.
One of our things that we like to point out, and a lot of our participants share, is that we're very similar, but we're also very different from one another. In terms of even within different similar tribes or bands, there's definitely has some similarities, but there's also these differences between other. And a lot of times, a lot of our participants, when they learn about it, it really shows that, because A lot of participants indicate that at first they thought a lot of Native people were very similar, but at the end they could tell what was the differences and what the similarities between. With that being said, we always try to make sure that a lot of folks encourage all our districts to have participants come down to the Institute, and so they can be engaged in dialogue with some of the topics at hand or presentations, and they can, when they go back, they can work with their districts in terms of some of the areas that we're looking at.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us at nativereport.org and Facebook. Thank you for spending time with us here on Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. We'll see you next time.
Stacy Thunder is a member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation, and Tad Johnson is a member of the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa and is chair for the American Indian Studies Department on the campus of the University of Minnesota Duluth. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.
I like the new cameras.